In this task, you'll add some data representing food deserts and will learn how to do some more sophisticated layer styling. And after completing this task, you'll be able to impress your colleagues with inverted polygon shape burst fills. Here I have QGIS Desktop open with the Lab 5 QGIS document loaded. Initially, this map has only 3 of the layers used in Lab 4, and the labels for the dialysis centers have been turned off. But I've gone ahead and loaded the food desert and county boundary layers and reordered the layers. The 2 new layers come with random styling, and I'll begin by opening the layer properties for the county boundaries layer. I'll switch to the Style tab, choose the land style, and click OK. With that done, I'll turn the layer on. Next, I'll change the styling of the neighborhood diabetes layer to a more muted style that'll allow the food deserts to also be shown on top. So I'll open layer properties for neighborhood diabetes and change the color ramp to yellow, orange, brown. And then I'll click Apply. The neighborhood boundaries make the map busier than it needs to be. So I'll click on the Symbol Change button, select Simple Fill, and choose a border style of No Pen, and click OK and Apply. This eliminates the borders. Finally, I'll set the layer transparency to 30%. This will soften the colors and make them less saturated. With the styling complete, I'll click OK. I have no data representing the Chesapeake Bay. It's simply a white hole in the data layers. To make it blue, I could go to the Project menu, open up Project Properties, and change the background color of the map to blue. However, I'll show you a more powerful way to represent this feature. I'll right-click on the Maryland County Boundaries layer and choose Duplicate. A second copy of it appears in the layer panel. I'll drag the new copy so that it's between neighborhood diabetes and the Baltimore City boundary. Then I'll turn the layer on by clicking the checkbox next to it in the Layers panel. You'll now learn about inverted polygon styling, which is a way to style data outside the boundaries of a layer, essentially the inverse of the layer. It can be used to create a mask around a feature, but here I'll use it to represent the Chesapeake Bay. I'll open up the layer properties for this copied layer. And from the Renderer dropdown, I'll choose Inverted Polygons. Then I'll select Simple Fill, and I'll select a symbol layer type of Shape Burst Fill. Then in the Gradient Colors section, I'll use the two-color method. Color number 1 will have an RGB value of 225, 255, 255. Color number 2 will have an RGB value of 166, 206, 227. And I'll click Apply. The area beyond the extent of the county boundaries, which is equivalent of the Chesapeake Bay, is now styled with a light blue to darker blue color ramp. It's also using the Shape Burst Fill style, which fills the area with a gradient based on the distance from the edge. Now under Shading Style, I'll select Shade to a set distance and set the distance to 12. Again, I'll click Apply, but won't close the Layer Properties window. This setting gives a little more definition to the center of the channel. Finally, I'll create a shoreline. I'll click the Add Symbol Layer button. Then I'll change from a symbol layer type of Simple Fill to Outline Simple Line. I'll give the line an RGB value of 31, 120, 180, which is a dark blue. You can create great effects by using composite renderers like this. Finally, I'll click OK. I've symbolized the Chesapeake Bay without actually having a Chesapeake Bay GIS layer, using an inverted polygon shape burst fill on the county boundaries. I'll now use a similar technique to give more visual weight to Baltimore City. I'll right-click on the Baltimore City boundary and choose Duplicate, and open the layer properties for this copied layer. Again, I'll choose Inverted Polygon as the renderer, choose Simple Fill, and choose a symbol layer type of Shape Burst Fill. Under Gradient Colors, I'll again be using the two-color method. Color number 1 will have an RGB value of 135, 135, 135, which is a gray. Color number 2, I'll leave as white. Under shading style, again I'll select shade to a set distance and set the distance to 4. Down under layer rendering, I'll slide the transparency slider so that the layer transparency is at 45%. With those settings complete, I'll click OK and turn on my layer. This styled the area beyond the city limits. I used a gray to white color ramp with a distance of 4, which creates a mask around the city boundary. The layer is also semi-transparent so that you can see the underlying data. It creates an effect where the area of interest pops off the map and receives more visual weight. The area beyond Baltimore City is underneath the white mask created by this styling so that it visually falls into the background. Finally, I'll style the food deserts. I'll turn the layer on and open up layer properties. I'll select simple fill. I'm going to use a fill style of no brush and give them a black boundary. And I'll set the boundary width to 0.66. Down under layer rendering, I'll slide the transparency slider so that the transparency is at 15%. This will soften the outlines a bit. Then I'll click OK. Now the styling is complete, and in the next task, you'll learn how to compose a map.